There may be times when we must make a courageous decision to hope even when everything around us contradicts this hope.
So in reality, we are not human doings or human beings. We are human becoming.
My little wife was expecting our third child. She had major complications. She was flat on her back in bed for months. It became very life-threatening. And finally, very prematurely, we were in the hospital. Medical science did everything they knew to try to stop the labor. Then finally, a tiny little baby was born. She was completely blue and would not breathe. She was so small she could fit right in my hand. Her head would be right here in my fingers, the top of her legs right here on my wrist, and her legs were exactly the size of my forefingers. They took this perfect little girl and handed her away when she wouldn't breathe and turned to me and said, "I'm sorry." At that moment, with all my heart, I bowed my head and said, "Heavenly Father, I love this little girl. I want her to live. Please, take me. Let me come. Let her live." And begged that she might have a chance. I heard a tiny little peep. It wasn't even a cry. It was just a peep from the corner of the room. This tiny little girl took her first breath, almost unassisted. They grabbed her and headed for intensive care. They finished taking care of my wife and mentioned to her, "If the baby had stayed inside 2 more weeks, you would have died. The baby would have lost her life. This baby had to come early." They turned to me and said, "Your wife is now stable. She'll be fine. You better go check on the baby." My wife knowingly squeezed my hand, encouraged me to go check on our little girl. I rushed into the intensive care area, stood out at the window, and saw this tiny little body under the lights with a little monitor taped to her heart. But no one was helping her. As the doctor came out, I said, "Please help my little girl." They said she could probably barely breathe. "She is so tiny, please go help her." He said, "We would help her if she needed it. And she's so tiny, yet she's so strong. We have a question for you. Did your wife have any problems when she was expecting your child?" I didn't need to be strong anymore. I wasn't with my wife, and I had a meltdown in the hall in the hospital. I turned to the doctor and said, "My wife has been flat on her back in bed. Her muscles have atrophied so much she can't stand up. She almost lost her life. She's upstairs on the table, barely alive. All we've had is problems, doctor. Don't you know about her case?" He said, "I'm just the pediatrician. I don't know. But I will tell you this. When problems happen, it causes stress and causes the baby's body to receive more adrenaline, and the baby's body matures."
Believe in miracles. I have seen so many. They came when every indication would say that hope was lost. Hope is never lost.